In a gloomy day, where the gray sky seems to mirror Laura's mood, she sits in her living room, surrounded by piles of clothes, some of which are gym gear she bought months ago but never used. The TV is on, but her gaze is distant, lost in thought. Laura is going through a tough time. She recently went through a painful breakup and is in the midst of a grieving process that has left her emotionally drained. Each day feels like a struggle to find the motivation for even the smallest tasks, and going to the gym, once her form of self-care, has become something she just can't bring herself to face. Sitting on a comfortable couch, Laura reflects on how much her life has changed. The mirror nearby reveals a reflection she barely recognizes. Her once toned and active body now feels softer and uncomfortable. She tries to remember the days when simply moving made her feel alive and energized. But now, even the thought of starting a workout routine overwhelms her, draining what little energy she has left. Laura tries, unsuccessfully, to summon the motivation she needs to begin. She wonders why it's so hard to start, even knowing that going to the gym could help her feel better. Looking out the window, she watches the leaves sway in the wind and realizes that time is passing, yet she remains stuck in a cycle of stagnation. The feeling of being stuck and the difficulty of going back to the gym only add to her frustration and sadness. In this moment of introspection, Laura is consumed by feelings of guilt and discouragement. She knows she should be taking care of herself and finding ways to heal, but taking that first step feels like the hardest thing of all. Every day, she wonders if she'll ever find the inner strength to take that first step and start her journey back to wellness. Laura remains seated on the couch, her gaze still lost in the void. The day is ending, and the soft light of dusk begins to fill the room. She slowly gets up and walks over to the hallway mirror. She looks at her reflection with a mixture of frustration and sadness. The discomfort with her body, especially her softer arms and midsection, is something she can't ignore. Every time she sees herself, she's reminded of the days when she was fit and felt good about herself. Now, the feeling of weakness and discomfort is predominant, and the desire to change seems almost unattainable. She wonders how she reached this point. She knows that going to the gym could help her feel better and perhaps overcome the sadness she's carrying. Yet, the very thought of starting to work out is demotivating. She's tried several times to get started, but each time she ends up discouraged, returning to her cycle of inactivity. Sitting at her desk, Laura starts jotting down some health goals. She writes about the importance of improving her physical and emotional condition, but quickly feels that these goals are too big for her to tackle right now. The idea of starting an intense workout routine feels overwhelming. She realizes that if she continues to focus on the big picture, she'll never begin. Reflecting on her previous efforts, Laura acknowledges that she's made progress in other areas of her life, like maintaining a relatively healthy diet and drinking plenty of water. However, going to the gym, which was always a vital part of her routine, seems to be the one hurdle she can't overcome. She recalls the times when fatigue and lack of energy kept her from starting. She knows she needs a more manageable and accessible plan to take that first step. As the night progresses, Laura lies in bed and wonders if there's a way to break the cycle. She knows she needs to find a simpler and less intimidating approach to get started. The feeling of being stuck and the frustration with her lack of progress weigh on her. But Laura also begins to realize that she needs to be kind to herself and accept that small steps can be the beginning of a positive change. The next morning, Laura decides to seek advice on how to restart her fitness journey. She meets up with some friends for coffee, and the conversation naturally turns to how she's been feeling and what she's been going through. Laura shares her frustrations and the mental block she has when it comes to working out. Laura's friends listen attentively and begin offering a variety of suggestions. One suggests that Laura start with small steps, like a 10-minute walk each day. Another friend recommends she do a minimal number of push-ups, just enough to start building a habit without feeling overwhelmed. They also talk about the importance of building a simple routine and how small progress is better than none. One of her friends, who recently started going to the gym, suggests that Laura consider joining a gym as well. She mentions that the financial commitment of a membership could be an additional incentive to attend regularly. Plus, the friend talks about the benefits of participating in group classes, which can help maintain motivation and create a sense of accountability. Another option offered is to invest in some basic home workout equipment, like dumbbells and a yoga mat, and try online workout programs. Laura listens carefully to all these suggestions and begins to feel a small spark of hope. She realizes that the ideas aren't as intimidating as she had imagined, and that she might be able to find a solution that works for her. She considers that starting with simple steps and smaller goals could be a viable way to begin, without the pressure of making drastic changes all at once. When she returns home, Laura feels a bit more encouraged. She starts making a list of the ideas her friends shared and thinks about how she can adapt them to her situation. She realizes that perhaps the key is to start slow and find what works best for her, without pressuring herself to do everything at once. With these fresh suggestions in mind, Laura decides to take the first step. She wakes up a little earlier than usual and prepares for a brief walk. The sky is clear and the temperature is mild, offering the perfect setting to start her journey. She puts on comfortable gym clothes that she had bought some time ago and slips into a pair of sneakers that she hardly ever wears. As she gets ready, she tries to push aside the feeling of nervousness and focuses on the idea that this is just the beginning of a new habit. Laura steps outside and begins her walk around the neighborhood. Initially, she feels a slight resistance, but she soon notices that the physical activity is starting to lift her spirits. The sound of the birds and the fresh breeze are invigorating, and Laura tries to focus on the sense of lightness and well-being. She makes an effort to maintain a comfortable pace and avoids pressuring herself to walk faster than she can manage. After a few days of walking, Laura feels more confident and decides to try out some of the other suggestions she heard from her friends. She sets a goal to do a few simple push-ups and sit-ups at home. At first, the activities seem difficult, but Laura reminds herself that she's just beginning. The goal is to build a habit, not to achieve perfect performance from the start. Laura also begins exploring the idea of joining a local gym. She visits a few gyms in the area and is impressed by the variety of classes and equipment available. The idea of attending a group class and connecting with others who share similar goals seems promising. She decides that even if she's not fully ready to commit to a membership, she can start by trying out a few classes to see how she feels. To make exercising at home more enjoyable, Laura begins using a small area of her living room as her workout space. She lays down a yoga mat and sets out some basic equipment she bought from a local store. Even though the workout sessions are short, Laura notices that consistency is starting to make a difference. The feeling of having created a space for herself to exercise brings a new sense of control and accomplishment. After a few weeks of consistency with her walks and home workouts, Laura starts to notice a slight improvement in her physical and emotional well-being. She realizes that, even though she's still in the process of emotional recovery, the small daily victories are helping her feel more balanced. The sense of doing something positive for herself, even if it's just 10 to 15 minutes a day, is beginning to become a rewarding part of her routine. Laura faces a particularly challenging day, filled with painful memories and feelings of discouragement. She feels like giving up and questions whether all the effort is worth it. In a moment of frustration, she decides to look back at her notes on her goals and progress. As she reviews her list of small steps and achievements, Laura realizes how far she has come since the beginning. She decides to follow her friend's advice and try a group class at the local gym she visited. Laura signs up for a beginner's yoga class. At first, she feels a little nervous, but the experience turns out to be more positive than she expected. The class is welcoming, and the instructor is kind and encouraging. The feeling of being in a supportive environment, with people who share similar goals, helps Laura feel less alone on her journey. Over the following week, Laura continues attending yoga classes and begins to experience a growing sense of connection to her practice. She notices that the group sessions bring a new level of motivation, and the time spent at the gym becomes something she actually looks forward to. Laura also adjusts her home workout routine, incorporating new exercises and gradually increasing the time and intensity as she feels more comfortable and confident. Laura reflects on how the support of others and the gradual building of a routine helped her overcome the initial barrier. She realizes that by staying consistent and allowing herself to try new approaches, she was able to turn what seemed like an insurmountable obstacle into a journey of self-discovery and personal growth. As the weeks pass, Laura adapts well to her new workout routine and begins to notice subtle changes in her body and mood. Yoga and home workouts have become an essential part of her life, and attending group classes has contributed to a growing sense of belonging and motivation. Laura realizes that consistency and a gradual approach were key to achieving these results. During a conversation with a friend, Laura mentions how regular exercise has helped her better cope with her grieving process and improve her self-esteem. She shares how the journey started with small steps, but how those steps led to a significant shift in her perspective and well-being. Her friend congratulates her and encourages her to keep challenging herself, offering suggestions to further diversify her activities. Inspired by the conversations and her own positive experience, Laura decides to try a new physical activity, a weekend hiking group. She signs up for the next hike and is surprised to find herself excited about the idea. Hiking in nature is a different kind of exercise that combines the experience of being outdoors with the enjoyment of socializing with others. On the day of the hike, Laura meets up with the group and is struck by the positive energy and enthusiasm of the participants. She discovers that walking in nature is not only refreshing, but also a great way to relieve stress and reconnect with the environment around her. The experience is so rewarding that Laura decides to continue participating in the hikes and explore other outdoor activities as well. Meanwhile, Laura begins to notice a significant shift in her relationship with food and self-care. She feels more motivated to prepare healthy meals and take care of herself, not just as a way to achieve physical goals, but as an act of self-love and respect. Regular exercise is helping to improve her energy and mood, making it easier for her to stick with healthy habits. Over time, Laura continues to naturally integrate physical exercise into her life. Her weekend hikes become a cherished ritual, and her yoga sessions and home workouts are now an established part of her daily routine. She starts to see and feel the changes in her body and mind. The fat around her midsection is decreasing, her arms and legs are more toned, and her energy and self-esteem are soaring. One quiet afternoon, Laura finds herself reflecting on her journey. She revisits her notes and memories from the early days when everything felt so difficult and distant. She realizes how the gradual approach and acceptance of small steps helped her overcome the challenges. The decision to start with small, achievable goals and to seek support and new ways of engagement were crucial to her progress. Laura also recognizes the importance of being kind to herself and acknowledging that every small achievement is valuable. The process of change wasn't immediate or perfect, but persistence and flexibility led her to a place of greater balance and personal satisfaction. She feels that although the journey has been challenging, it has been rewarding and transformative. Now, Laura decides to share her experience with others who might be struggling with similar issues. She starts a blog about her journey of transformation, offering tips and encouragement to those who are just beginning. Her message is clear: everyone faces challenges, but small steps are what really make the difference. She encourages her readers to start with what is possible, to be patient with themselves, and to find ways to integrate self-care and exercise into their routines. Laura concludes her blog with an invitation for her readers to commit to one small step today. Whether it's a 10-minute walk, a set of push-ups, or simply a moment of self-care, every action counts. She reminds everyone that, just as she found the strength to overcome obstacles, they too have the ability to transform their lives, starting with small, meaningful steps. Laura smiles as she reflects on her journey, knowing that by sharing her story, she is helping others find the motivation and courage to make positive changes in their own lives.